tell me a little bit about how bootcamp is different than the other programs that we have, and what are the steps you take to prepare the instructor for that program?
Absolutely. Boot camps, and this is one of the reasons I love NetCom, because even though boot camp is not a new concept, a lot of training organizations are delivering boot camps. NetCom specializes in boot camps, and we take a different approach. The way we package our courses together, we're ultimately thinking of how can we package this class for a certain amount of certification so the student can walk out with more. Walk out in less time with more. So we're constantly evaluating the classes that we're putting together in terms of package, in terms of duration, and certifications. As far as the boot camp itself, it's centered around, of course, certification. So the way an instructor would teach that versus a regular class, first of all, you have to have a certain amount of longevity. The instructor has to be prepared for a long day. They have to understand that the difference is the students should already be at a certain level. They should already know about this particular product. And we do pre-assessment quizzes to make sure that this student is the right candidate for this boot camp, because we want to make sure ultimately that their experience is a good one. So once the assessment has been done, the right candidates are in the class. The overall goal is certification. So you're not going to deliver the class the same way. It's a longer day, there are longer hours, it's a longer duration, and the focus is ultimately for that student to walk out certified. So what steps we put in place is the instructor will contact the students ahead of time by some sort of email. And that email will basically be an introduction. Hi, you're going to be your instructor for the upcoming boot camp, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself, so you got to know me a little bit before class. And in that same email, the instructor will encourage the students to respond to give a little background about themselves. This is important. In my opinion, this is very important because the instructor now knows who is in his class, and he knows how to customize that training just a little bit more because he knows he's got 5 engineers, and do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's just that level of customization, and that's what we like to provide. So the instructor will encourage in this email for the students to write back and give them a little information about themselves, who they are, why they're there, what are their overall expectations of this boot camp. Now, granted, their overall expectation is probably certification, but usually we'll find out many other things. Not only is certification, but their job might depend on it. So these are really important factors that I think it would behoove an instructor to know going into the class so they can just better prepare. In that same email, the instructor will encourage pre-reading for the class. They'll encourage them to work on some sort of test prep, and they might suggest some sort of white paper to read or maybe some sort of industry article to read. The idea is that the instructor is sort of prepping them on what to expect. So not only is the instructor saying, tell me about yourself so I can gauge who my students are and how I can prepare for you, he or she is also saying, do this because you're going to have long days, and what you put into the class is what you'll get out of the class. So it's also setting that expectations with our students too. This is not going to be a walk in the park. So every day while in the boot camp, the instructor is doing a status update. It's usually occurring with the branch manager of the location that the boot camp is going on in, and that status update is how are the students doing? How are they scoring on their practice tests? Who's in line for certification? So it's basically an update process, and that way the instructor can act more like a coach. Hey, you're going to be ready on day 3 to take the exam. Or, you might not quite be ready, and maybe, you should do a week of self-study and you should hold off on taking the exam. The idea is that in a boot camp, your instructor becomes more of a coach because, again, the students are at a certain level in a boot camp, and now it's just sort of guiding them what you should know. These are, this is how the questions sort of pose on this particular exam, and it's helping them understand and know what to expect on the exam itself. So it's really more like a coaching process.